fun. Okay, I'm Joel. I'll be your host for the next 2 hours. And thank you all for braving the weather. This is not, of course, what we ordered up for today, but we're glad to see the rain because it actually got pretty dry here for a couple of weeks. And we are very glad to see the rain. This is what we call a sheep rain. All the old timers call this a sheep rain. It comes, it's the first. What you do is it gets warm, you go out and you shear your sheep. And the sheep lose all their wool. And then guess what? Then you get a cold rain. All the sheep stand around and huddle around. So that's right. And we got one more coming, and that will be blackberry winter. Yep. And that usually comes from anywhere from the 12th to the 20th of May. It'll get cold again and rain, and that's right when the blackberries are in blossom. And that cold rain helps the bees to get the blackberries pollinated, and you can just like a clock. We call it blackberry winter. And so this is the first one, sheep rain, and then we got blackberry. And then the other thing is, this is not a lecture; it's a discussion. So please interrupt me anytime. Although I will watch the clock. I know where we have to go, and if we have to, go, we'll go. But I'll be around at the end to answer questions and entertain other things. Anything is on the table. I mean, we're not politically correct here, so we don't tippy-toe around everything. We're glad to talk about politics, religion, inheritance, child rearing, spousal contentment, whatever. It's all on the table. Okay. So one is for safety and one is for psychology. Those two principles. I don't think I'm missing anything. We will be gone for close to 2 hours. If it just starts to pour, we're going to head to cover. I'm not going to expect everybody to stay out if it just starts to pour. But if it's just kind of misty, drizzly, I think everybody looks like you're a pretty game bunch. So we'll make it happen. So these are hoop houses. And if you poked your nose in some of these others, you saw vegetables up. I think there might be corn up in that one right down there. I'm not sure. I just got home from Florida this morning. I've been gone since Thursday a week ago. So speaking at seminars. So I just got home an hour ago. And Teresa picked me up at the airport. So I had to find out where everything was myself. I didn't know where everything was. But I think we have corn up down here. Of course, the lower hoop house we have vegetables. But what these are primarily for is winter housing for the chickens, pigs, and rabbits. And so what we do is we put in we've got bedding in here that'll come up as high as these sideboards, at deep bedding, and we have pigs in here, chickens, and those tables there are essentially a portable mezzanine floor that we can set out, and the chickens can go up on top there. You can have rabbits over here in their houses. Then you can have chickens, they go on the floor and up on the mezzanine, which has their nest boxes and feeders and stuff, and then pigs are on the floor. So you've got 3 different kinds of animals all in here using the cubic footage instead of just the linear footage, but no animal is at a density that stimulates pathogenicity. And 99% of all pathogens are species specific, and so they get real confused with all this, different multi-speciation here. Oh, I'm a rabbit parasite, but what's this chicken manure? I'm dead, And so they become very confused. And confused pathogens are a good thing. And so even though we're actually producing more stuff per square foot than a conventional, confinement animal operation, because none of the density is as high, and because we're tilling this deep bedding with all this carbon in it, and they're only in here for about 90 days, you don't have any of the negatives that you have in a CAFO. You don't have the pathogenicity, toxicity, or anything. Then we clean the bedding out, and then we till it up, and it's all nice and ready now to receive plants. And as you see, we've already got a bunch of, most of them are already planted. We're continuing to plant into them as we go, and we can plant a double crop. I mean, that sweet corn down there that's already this tall, it'll be done by the 1st of July. We can plant again and get another crop before frost because of the protection of the tall tunnels. A lot of people say, well, you know, this all sounds good, but how, you know, ultimately, how do you feed the world with a local food system and stuff like that? I mean, you know, you got to have, you know, Peruvian tomatoes and San Joaquin Valley mesclun mixed around here, you know, in February. No, you don't. No, you don't. All you'd have to do is take all the petroleum that's spent on diesel fuel driving refrigerated trucks from warm areas to cold areas in the off season, take that petroleum, put it into plastic and tall tunnels with season extension cold frames and this high-tech infrastructure we have now, and localities in northern areas would become you know, vegetable, I mean, even off-season. Now, you maybe wouldn't grow tomatoes and peppers, but you could certainly grow lettuces, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and mesclun mix in the wintertime in these areas. Of course, you know, Elliot Coleman's been doing it all of his lifetime in Maine, and I just, back in January, saw a place in Minneapolis where they do from October 1 to March 1 a winter greens, you know, with spinach and Swiss chard and mesclun mix and lettuces, bib lettuce, head lettuce. They do a winter CSA in Minneapolis from October 1 to March 1. Wow. So it can be done. It is in fact being done, and there's a lot that we can do with this kind of high-tech infrastructure to you know, to capture energy and do out-of-season production. So this is the pastured broiler. Now these first group of pens is a set of pullets. These aren't broilers. The broilers are in behind, but frankly I don't want to drive across this bottom here, so we're just, I mean, they're all the shelters are all the same. This is kind of what we're known most for, is the pastured broiler, the meat bird. And these shelters are 10 feet by 12 feet by 2 feet high. And obviously the chickens would like it to be 70 and sunny right now. So you're seeing it at its worst, okay? You know, this is the, I'll be real honest with you, this is the downside of pastured production. You know, it makes a wonderful, it solves a million problems, but there's no perfect thing this side of eternity. There's no paradise this side of eternity, okay? And so you pick your battles. You know, the Tyson guys, they don't have to worry about a day like this, but they have to worry about E. coli, salmonella, campylobacter, and you know, fecal particulate and all sorts of hot, you know, electricity running down, price of energy and all that stuff. This doesn't take any energy except human energy. So, so we don't worry about the price of petroleum here. We don't worry about, you know, disease. But, you know, a snap like this can actually, you know, create some pneumonia problems and things like that. It's just the way it is. So, you know, you take your pick. And at the end of the day, we're standing here among 2,000 chickens, and you don't smell any manure, and it's all okay. But that's why the shelters are the shelters. You know, we've been taken to task by some animal welfare groups that castigate us for putting them in these little shelters. They should be free to roam wherever they go. Well, you know, they're kind of tasty morsels for hawks and crows and bobcats and raccoons and possums and skunks and weasels and martins and owls, and yeah. So this protects them from predation and weather, and every day we move them to a fresh spot. A little dolly in there behind, and you just slip that under. It lifts the back end up about an inch, and then you pull it from the other end, and the chickens just walk to their next spot. And one person can move 60 of these shelters in 60 minutes. 1 minute per shelter, so we can move 5,000 birds in 1 hour, one person. It's extremely efficient. And of course, you notice there's no fans, no concrete, no electric energy. The beauty of this is that the infrastructure is scalable. In other words, you can start with one of these in your backyard, or you can have 150 of them like we do. Now, they're not all here. We lease 8 additional pieces of property, and so we have former interns and apprentices on those other farms that are growing exactly like this as independent contractors that are feeding into our market, so that we can continue to meet the market demand but maintain the integrity of decentralization and ecological correctness. We only want to touch a square foot one time a year with these and give a whole year's rest, because each one of these is putting down 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre per stay. And about all we can metabolize here is about 300 pounds with our climate degree days, frost, rainfall, all that. So the fact is, if it's organic or inorganic, if you're putting down too much nitrogen, it's going to go somewhere. It's going to go off in the air, it's going to go into the groundwater, go to the Chesapeake Bay, it's going to go somewhere. And so we're very sensitive about the carrying capacity and those boundaries of our ecological umbilical here, of our ecological womb, if you will. And so we don't want to overrun any of that. A couple other things that are happening here. One is that because it's all portable, we can move all this around. In fact, it can even be done on land you don't own. You know, when you say the word farm, what you tend to think of are the things that the farmer does. You know, you think about a barn, a tractor, you think about things that a farmer does. I mean, if there's no farmer, then it's just a wilderness area. Okay? In other words, when we say farm, we're thinking of what a farmer does. And so the beauty of this is it creates actually a portable farm, so that it can be done anywhere. Rented land, owned land, you know, you can go squat behind somebody's place, you know, and all this, you know, can be put on a lowboy trailer and moved up the road at 50 miles an hour to another place, and it can be put in a suburb. It can be put in a homeowners association if they didn't have an anti-farming contract in their organization. A lady from Austin just told me that she got fined by our homeowners association. It has an anti-farming thing in their homeowners association, and she had the audacity to plant a tomato plant in her flower bed. And that's farming. I mean, what we've done is created an incredibly segregated food system. A segregated food system. And historically, food has always been integrated. And that one of the beauties of this is, since there's no flies, no odors, and no mess, it can be done embedded, integrated into villages and communities like the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. You know, who wants to live next to a Tyson chicken house? You know, it stinks to high heavens. You know, if you gotta hold your nose to go visit your food, you might not want to eat it. You know, notice there's no trespassing signs here. You know, if you gotta walk through sheep dip and put on a hazardous material suit to go visit your food, you might not want to eat it either. And so, you know, we trust the immune systems of our animals, and we don't worry about somebody bringing in, you know, a disease, because these animals have an immune system, and if something overrides their immune system, we don't assume that they're sick because they're, you know, pharmaceutically disadvantaged. We assume that there's something in their terrain of life that has overridden their immunological barrier, and so that's the way nature culls out the ones that don't have a good immunological system. Yes? See this big white dog running around here? Oh, there he is out there. Yeah, his name is Michael, and he is an Akbash Anatolian Shepherd cross. He runs 37 miles an hour. He doesn't look like much in the daytime, but at night he's death on paws. And he eats skunks. We know very well. About 2 a month seems to be kind of the norm, you know. possums, raccoons. You know, he'll chase hawks away. He's quite amazing. And we have one of those dogs every single place on every farm where we have poultry. That's our.
Train him? Did you train him?
Yes, we did train him. Now we bought him from a breeder who raised him with poultry from a pup. This breeder raises them. You can either get one trained for raised with sheep and goats or raised with poultry. And amazingly, the females do not have a high success rate with poultry. Only the males. So all of ours are males because we're poultry and not sheep. In other words, that we're guarding. And nobody knows why. But there's only about a 20% success rate where a female will bond to poultry. Whereas all.
Like that cost.
How much something like that cost? $1,000 a dog.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they're not cheap. But it doesn't take but one serious attack from a predator to wipe out $1,000. Right. He's worth. I mean, we'd pay twice that. Sure. Now, one way that you can refine the training, like, you know, if they come in, they're a little bit rambunctious, maybe they, you know, want to chase around some chickens or whatever. What we do to refine the training is a Cabela's buzz collar, and it's radio controlled. You put it on. The beauty of this is that they don't associate you with the training. So you can be hiding over here behind a tree and they get buzzed for improper, discipline. And of course they just think it's God, you know. And that's the way you want it. You don't want them to associate your presence with training because they're pretty smart. But yeah, Michael's quite an amazing critter. Other question?
Are you catching water, or are you catching the rainwater, or you have to fill those buckets up?
Okay, the question is, what about the water? No, well, obviously they're catching rainwater when it rains, but no, we have to fill them up, and there's a dip tank somewhere here. I don't know where it is. There's a dip tank right down here somewhere, I'm sure, where we dip and carry. Well, there's a dip tank up there at the top. That's coming. This water line along the side of the field here, that black plastic pipe, is carrying water from a pond almost a mile away from us. We've built ponds up in the mountain, in the ravines, that are catching winter runoff. Okay, we don't have any springs on the farm here. We're very water poor here. And so over the years, we've built a dozen ponds, and we're building them like step ladders up in the mountain in these ravines. We hook into them, so now we have 80 pound pressure water, 5 miles of water line that gravity feeds out of the mountains and gives us all the water we want without any pumps or electricity or anything. And there's plenty of water to take us clear through the season. We can even use it for irrigation.
Oh, above ground?
So, it is, yeah, this is above ground. Of course, the problem with here is everything here is prototype. The rental farms, when we put water in, we now ditch it in. And in fact, we've got the pipe to redo the first half mile of this that will be buried this year.
That'll freeze and break.
It'll freeze, but we don't have any of this out here in the wintertime. The chickens, the outdoor poultry like this, are only they're only out 9 months, and they're in the hoop. Well, we don't have the broilers at all in the wintertime. So that's strictly a seasonal thing, essentially 6 months out, 6 months on, 6 months off. And so we don't need the water as much in the winter, right in the dead of winter, as we do in the summertime.
Joel, when did you bring the chickens out?
The first batch came out, I'm gonna say, well, these pullets actually came out about March the 10th. They've been out a while. I mean, they started back there at the end of the field, and they've made it up to here. So, they've been out for several weeks. The broilers came out 2 weeks ago. They come out in about 3 weeks. They came out about 2 weeks ago. We have another batch that'll come out this week. And we start a batch every third week, which allows the chicks to get 2 to 3 weeks old before they have to come out. They start in the brooder down there at the house, that metal building. And you're welcome to take a look in there when we go home. Yes?
The reason you're not doing Cornish crosses, you used to be doing those, right? Or?
Yeah, the ones up there are Cornish crosses. But we also now do the Freedom Ranger, which is the French La Belle Rouge genetic, which is a red bird. It's a double-breasted hybrid bird developed in France for their La Belle Rouge program, which is their red labels. French is red label, and it grows about 20% slower than the Cornish cross. So we do those at 10 weeks instead of 8 weeks. And they're a little bit tougher, but they definitely eat more grass. They don't have as broad a breast. They stand a little taller. Jury's still out on mortality, seems to be about the same. But their fat is a little darker orange, indicating the higher carotene intake that they have from better grazing. You know, we have some people that in, taste tests, oh my, I'd never have another Cornish cross. They're so much better. Other people, I mean, good, we have some really finicky gourmand customers, and they can't tell a bit of difference and say, just forget those. I don't know. My favorite story is I was going out, Michael Pollan had me come out to talk at UC Berkeley several years ago, and Alice Waters, was in Berkeley. She's the maven of the whole, restaurant, gourmet, farm to school, all this. They're at Chez Panisse in Berkeley. And she found out I was coming. She called and said, bring me some stuff. Well, I was kind of in fear and trepidation taking her a broiler because she's gone on record. We don't even want a chicken to eat any corn. We want it to be on acorns and bugs and worms and, and be 50 weeks old and, non-hybrid and developed in, Picasso, Italy, 6,000 years ago, all this stuff. And so anyway, I got some beef and some pork, and I got one of these broiler. This was, and of course it was frozen too, not fresh. And I was going out. It was like in February. I was going out there, so I took all this stuff, and just packed it in my underwear, put it in my suitcase, and went out there, and got out there soon enough before it defrosted, and and kind of wet everything up, and. So Michael picked me up at the airport. We went down to Chez Panisse, and Alice met me, and of course she was very gracious and put everything in the freezer there. And she said, I'll have polyface testing here when I can get my cohorts together. So about 4 weeks later, she got Michael Pollan, Michael Dimmick, the president of Slow Food USA, and some of her head cohorts, and they did a cooking, and everything got rave reviews. But what Alice went crazy over was the broiler. And she said, how can this be? I said, Alice. What?
Your underwear.
Yeah. Special delivery.
Special seasoning.
Yes. Hola, underwear seasoning. Okay. And I said, here's the deal. It's the grass. It's the grass. See, the problem is that so much heritage poultry is so difficult to control because they're flighty, that nobody can get them on fresh grass all the time. So their actual ingestion of the green material is way less than a more docile, lethargic bird like this that's given a fresh salad bar every single morning. We don't even move them in the afternoon. We move them first thing in the morning. The grass is crispiest, freshest. It's been overnight in the cool. The chicken is the most active. They're the hungriest. I mean, everything we do, the time of move, the place of move, all of that. I mean, we graze it with the cows to shorten it down so they can masticate it better. A chicken doesn't want tall grass, they want short grass because they can't, so they don't have to bend it in their beak. Then they eat more of it. I mean, all of these nuances we massage to stimulate the ingestion of the green material. And that is typically what's not done in even, hoity-toity traditional heritage slow food outfits. Trust me, I've been on them, I've seen them, I've been to a lot of them. And that's the difference. When you come here, you won't see bare dirt. I was just on several farms. I just did a great big 20,000 person slow food event on the east coast of Florida yesterday. That's what one of the things I was there for. And I was on several farms, and you know, dirt, and they're calling them pastured, and it just, you know, and it's different. If I see dirt, something wrong. You either should put them in a house with deep bedding that's composting and growing lots of bugs that they can aerate with a good C/N ratio that's about 30 to 1, or get them outside but move them. That's the key. Okay?
So the pens are 10 by 12. What's the optimal number?
75 in a shelter. 75 in a shelter. Of course, when they first come out, you know, they can all 75 of them can sleep in about, you know, 3 square feet. But as they grow, they start to fill it up.